Morning, guys. Let me clean off my camera lens. There, that's better. Well, it's been a crazy few days, and that's no joke. Let's sit down and untangle this mess. So Saturday, I wanted to show you my wood stove. This flue was there from before we moved, and that stove was the one I had in Himrod. So I just got a couple pieces of pipe, and then several weeks, 2-4 weeks ago, before the big cold we had below zero, and I went and stuck it together, and now it's great. We like it out here. So we're waiting for the furnace guy to come clean the furnace so it doesn't take 7.5 gallons of diesel fuel every day to heat the house. So Saturday morning, my friend Reed got yellow skidoo. Since his he's got a whole fleet of old Artie cats and nothing's working, or he just never, well, nothing was working. He didn't get anything put together for the winter. But he did buy an old XLT triple Polaris. And he was fiddling around with the clutches to do grass drag stuff. If you watch the grass drags video, he was in there. I got at least one of his passes. He was over to get a little help with the secondary springs, putting in a performance spring set. So he had trouble with that secondary clutch, so he just went down to Dundee and borrowed the skidoo. But Friday night we went out, just drove down to Chris's house, hung out in the shop. Oh, wait. Leroy came over with his friend Tom, and they took both of his snowmobiles. I got the black one going, and then we rode over to Christopher's parents' place, and we messed around a little bit. Chris tried to jump over a big snow pile, like a snow pile that a tractor pushed up. Probably shoulder height for me. So he broke his trailing arm off. So he messed around with that a little bit, and then we headed to Penyan, got some gas, headed out the outlet trail to Dresden, and then the trail ends on the railroad track. So we plowed a new trail out the railroad track for a couple intersections, and then turned around. Leroy wanted to drive from Dresden to Dundee, so he had a little talk with Tom, and they just lit off out the road. By the time we got our stuff turned around on the road and back up the trail, they were gone. So I went back to Chris with him and his dad, and hung out in the shop for a while and talked with Aaron and Chris, just kind of hanging out, waiting, making sure that we don't get a phone call from Tom and from Leroy and Tom, because they were going to take the ditches in the roads. They thought they could take, I don't know, and it's 7.5, 10 miles, probably more like 10 miles into Dundee. Well, they made it to Dundee by ditch. Not only that, once he got to Dundee, they drove all the way down to Tyrone for supper, and then back again to Leroy's house in Dundee. That left us a little Dodge Journey sitting out front of my house. When I got home 9:30 or so, I was beat, man. I went to bed. Next morning I got up and the journey was gone, so, and my helmet was back, which was great. So I guess they drove to Tyrone and back, and then came all the way back here to pick up the Dodge Journey. There's a set of snowmobile tracks up in the driveway I didn't put there. It could have been Tom or Leroy on Friday, so I don't think there's no snowmobile here. This is confusing. Anyway, I guess they got their car. He had a big trip Leroy had a big trip to Harrisburg on Saturday, starting at 3 a.m. So he got home at 1:30 and was supposed to leave at 3. So I guess he was a little late, but they got the job done. So he called me in Harrisburg, and he's sleeping. So Reed picked up his snowmobile at Leroy's house. He had a lot of trouble loading. I guess he had one of his friends come over. That took from 10:30 till 10:30 Saturday morning till I think he met us at 1:30, 2 o'clock. So Saturday we had a trailside cookout at Ayers Road, where our club meeting is sometimes. And they had this in the pole building. So we had diesel heaters, a card table, a couple of tables, some chairs and stuff to sit down and eat. Hamburgers, hot dogs. The club members like their adult beverages, so there was some of those sitting in the snowbank. So me and Chris, I drove to Benton Church, which is our where the trail meets from Chris's house. So we met him and headed over to the cookout and had some food and hung around and for an hour or so, and Reed showed up finally with the skidoo, and he had a little food. We hung out. After that, we decided to go down to Valley Inn on the corner of the road there and see if we could pick up the trail going to Prattsburg. So we found one trail. We took it across a couple fields. Chris had the what are they called? The Skidoo Rev Chassis. It's got a little bit of a long tunnel on it. There's a little ditch that was about 2 feet deep and 3 foot wide, 4 foot wide. Yeah, maybe 4 foot. Anyway, I was the leader. I was following somebody else's tracks. I got through. I thought I was going to break my skis in half, but I got through. And Reed was next. He got through. I think he followed me just a little bit to the left, and then Christopher followed my tracks, maybe a little bit of the right. Anyway, he got in. His skis hit the other bank, went straight up, boom, stopped. And then the rear tunnel got high and centered on the other bank. So, well, we stopped and went over and pulled him through. And we crossed the next field and it went up on the road. I went up on the road. It was a really high bank, at least 10 foot tall and at 45-degree angle. Pretty kind of a pain to cross. I just used momentum to get up. Didn't have any problem, but I got up on the road. I looked down the road. Whoever crossed there, crossed in front of a few houses to get there, so So anyway, I backed up, turned around, came back down. We went back to the intersection, tried to see if there was maybe a trail up the other road. I didn't see anything. The fresh snow we had a good foot. It covered up a lot of the trails that used to be, so it's really hard to refine some of the old trails. And so far, Peña's cleared, the way to Valley Inn's cleared, the way to Canandaigua's cleared. I haven't been over toward Rushville yet, but that's probably not cleared. Well, maybe it is. I had a guy go past my house the other day, so that's a good sign. But Prattsburg Trail didn't exist. We turned around and headed back to Reed's grandparents, and he turned around in the driveway, which where he wanted to park, and the skidoo died. So that probably happened 3 o'clock 3:30. So we were messing around and figured out the fuel pump was down, so he found a cat fuel pump, and we got that all put in there, just laid it on top of the old pump. Actually, we ended up laying on top of the carburetors because there wasn't any room under the carburetors on top of the stock pump. We would have liked to lay it there. It was a little difficult with the nipple locations on the cat pump. Didn't really line up with the length of hoses and stuff, so it ended up getting laid on top of the carbs. But we just couldn't get the fuel lines to seal. So about 8:30 or so, from 3:30 to 8:30, we're working in the dry oil. It was about 10 degrees. I think by the time we pulled it in, it was 10 degrees below zero. Yeah, that's why my hands look the way they do. It got so cold, you'd have your fingers wet with the gas and touch a tool and just burn. So once we got it inside, actually one of his buddies was there beside the shed digging an old 580 Polaris out of the snow, or Arctic Cat out of the snow. Turns out that actually worked. It ran beautifully and idled, and he was giving us crap about our Skidoo. It was the first time he'd ever seen the Skidoo. The Skidoo never made a lick of trouble up until this point. So he convinced us to put zip ties on the gas lines, and that seemed to work. So but by that time the Skidoo was flooded right out. It probably had a couple quarts of gas in the crankcase. I guess the needle and seat started leaking when Leroy had it out. So we're going to have to pull the carburetors later and get them cleaned. I think we'll put an inline fuel shutoff in there and a fuel filter. You're going to have to take the air box out to shut off the gas because of where the fuel comes out of the tank. But I think it'll be a lot easier than trying to start a flooded Skidoo. So about 10:30, 11 o'clock we got it running. Chris was still there. He actually left around 9:30 or so. He decided he's out, he's done. I think he even left before we got the snowmobile pulled in the barn, in the shop. So after we got it pulled in the shop, we got zip ties going. I dumped 2-stroke down the spark plug holes to help soak up some of the oil. That would get it to fire, but as soon as it tried to run, it would suck fuel up from the below. So it only ran for like 1 or 2 seconds at a time. But we had a little torch. We kept changing out the old spark plugs, warm them up, burn off the gas, put them back in, keep going. A couple pulls at a time. After a few hours, we finally got it to idle. Idle and run, and once it ran good. We got it outside, let it idle for a while. I took it for a loop in the field, and it did really well. And then we left. The Arctic Cat fired up, and we headed out across the field, and it died. I was a little bit behind because of my hurt knee. I'll get to that part later, I guess. That happened mid-afternoon, my knee. But the old Arctic Cat died, so we got it cranked up again. I put my hand over the carburetors. We didn't have any air box in it or pod filters or anything. Just trying to keep it out of the deep stuff. So I got it to start, but pretty soon I discovered that I could hold my hand over the carbs and it would run until the bowls dried up. So we did that 2 more times, total 3 times. We resurrected the old thing. You could pull it five times and then the carb bowls would fill, but as soon as you tried to take off, it died. It might have crossed one field and it's died. A couple 100 yards, done. Come coasting up on a dead snowmobile. So anyway, his name's Tyler. He was mad. He flipped the belt off. I hooked up to the back of my Polaris and pulled him all the way home. I got to the I got to Reed's Grandpa's road. I was happy to get up out of the ditch with it behind, and I went straight up the road. I'm done. I'm not getting in the field and trying to cross laneways and stuff. It was pretty bad. I mean, the old Polaris was at 7 grand, just screaming her guts out, trying to pull. I got a studded trail track that's pretty fresh, but there's not a lot of lug left on it. We had to cross some frozen dirt fields too. There's a lot of snow, but the big clumps of dirt were still poking through, and I just couldn't bear the idea of having that tear into my track. Last year I towed a bunch of snowmobiles back home, and I towed everybody back home last year. And there's some big chunks out of my track now, and I don't really I don't want more of that happening. So we got Tyler back home. I guess Tyler got in his truck and went to the party. So me and Reed and our new friend Jeff showed up on his 2000 Arctic Cat 700 EF5. So Jeff showed up just as we pulled in the driveway. We were getting Tyler's old 580 off, you know, moving that off to the side. We got that out of our way, and then Jeff showed up. He was ready to go ride, so he joined us. So it's me and Reed and Jeff. We drove all the way over to my house, and we were gonna get food at the Valley Inn, and didn't end up working out. So my wife fired up the stove and the grill. Thank you very, very much. We were cold and tired, and our bodies were probably out of food by 4 p.m. and it was 4 or 6 hours of just being dead hungry, cold, and tired, and the pain from burning our skin on everything and getting gas in our hands. So we got here probably about 11 o'clock. Took a half hour, 45 minutes, sat down, had a bunch of food. And then when we got outside, the old Skidoo was flooded right out again. I gave her a crank and she tried to fire and died again, just like before, probably pulling gas up from the crankcase. So I ended up giving Jeff and Reed a ride back to Reed's grandpa's place where Reed's truck is, so Reed took Jeff home from there. And I was happy to make sure everybody gets home safe. Jeff almost thought he would take the trail back himself, but it's not a good idea. You get one ski off the trail and catch a sapling and go over the handlebars and hit your head on a tree or a rock or the hard trail. Nobody's gonna find you for days. So, special apology to Jeff's wife. He got a young'un at home, and this all turned into a big mess. It took many hours till he got back home, and I guess his wife was pretty upset. So, sorry. I didn't mean to make it like this. But it seems like this is the way snowmobiling can go. So how did I wreck my knee? So from Valley Inn is in a valley, a really big valley. And the trail up out of there is really steep. It's right around 45 degrees, and it's like a couple 100 yards long. Alrighty, I ran out of storage. I haven't deleted a bunch of videos from the other week, so got a lot of footage, and this intro is ridiculous. So coming up out of the valley, we had a good bit of snow. There was a good amount of tracks on the trail, and Reed's on the 500's got a pretty decent track. He made it up okay, I guess. I was stuck behind Chris, and Chris had the Skidoo 800 I just forgot what chassis it is. Anyway, it's a rider forward one, and it's got like 140-inch track, so it should be pretty capable. But I think he really punched the gas, and he ended up stripping the trail out, and we were stacked tight going up there, and he had a stripe of snow coming out the back going 70-80 miles an hour, and I was running right on top of that and trying to spin that out the back, and I just got no traction. And then he made a whole strip of probably 10 foot or so, 10-15 foot, that was bare ice. And as soon as I got out of snow and onto that, I was done. I stopped, locked up the brakes, and started sliding back down the mountain. Well, it's hard to see, it's hard to look around with the helmet on, but I was able to see that I could get off the track, get crosswise in the groove at least a little, and kind of get myself locked up and not slide down the mountain. I did. I got off the track just a few inches, and I was able to slowly get stopped, get in reverse, and go back down, back all the way down in the field. And then really give her the beans. I came flying up off the edge of the field. There's a little, like a little ditch along the field to keep the water from running across the field, I guess. I hit that and then bounced off of it pretty bad, but I got upright again and headed up there, and I had enough momentum just so to clear that big stripe of ice. So actually before that, crossing the valley and the creeks and stuff, we were stacked pretty tight. Reed stopped by the road and I wasn't paying attention to him, but I was right on Chris, and Chris smashed on the brakes, and I ran right in the back end, which had him kind of pissed because last year I wrecked in the back of the other Skidoo, the Classic. That was on purpose. I was being stupid. I broke his tail light. I guess his dad wasn't too happy about that. I bought him a new tail light lens, put it in. So I try to make stuff right if I can. Well, this snowmobile is his dad's daily regular snowmobile that he drives all the time, so, and it's an even more fancy one than the Classic, so Chris was pretty mad. So having him make a clear strip of ice that I had to slide back down, I was pretty pissed. And anyway, after that, up the hill, I was right on his tail, and when we got to the top, Reed stopped in a little field to check on all of us, and I'm like, hey, you should take my Polaris because it was running really good. It was late afternoon, starting to get colder. About 3:30 p.m. Not your 5 o'clock icy chill that comes around after dark. 3:30, it was getting colder, and it was running better and better, even with the big carburetor jets off the Pro X, or the carburetors off the Pro X with the big jets for the reeds and pipe. Reeds and can, sorry. So I was tired. I was pretty tired too. So I got on the old Skidoo, and the trail, this is the last stretch of trail from going to the road, and it's pretty rough. Almost fell off a couple times. The floorboards were slippery, and those are smooth. You got little dimples, but they're all wore off, and I almost fell because I lost my feet out from under me, and just the different snowmobile, and just mentally worn out, and not doing well overall. So, and pissed off, just being cocky and angry. So I crossed the road, went through the other woods, and then there's a nice long field that's a little bit rough. It's pretty flat, but I got out onto there and I punched it. I was hoping Reed was behind me and he would race me with a big 600. Relatively, if your friends drive 500s, I guess a 600 is big. I don't know. It's like a bolt of lightning in my mind. And the 500 is really quicker than a 500 has any business being. So I thought it'd be a good race. Anyway, I pinned her. Went out across the field a couple hundred foot. Probably doing 70, 60, 80 miles an hour. I have no idea. I think maybe my ski caught a little... The trail's really rough. You got big bumps and wallows from people wallowing in the snow. And drifts. So I might have hit some kind of a thing and it threw me right off the side. I think I was hanging on for a second with one knee down. And then I realized, well, I better let go and just ragdoll. So I just ragdolled. So I probably rolled, I don't know, 50 foot, 100 foot, I don't know. I could hear the snow singing on the side of my helmet. So the only thing I hurt was my knee. I might have hit it on the ice, I might have hit it on the trail, I might have hit it on the floorboards. I hit it somewhere. I might have hit it on 100 little bumps on the trail, but my knee, I wasn't sure if my kneecap was broke, but it's not. But my kneecap's swollen up a ½ an inch thick, so it's pretty sore. And so that definitely fixed the angry, cocky guy issues. Had to calm myself down and stop acting like a jerk. So anyway, I wasn't feeling too well. That's probably why we stopped at Reed's, or just to get gas there. Oh, we were going to go in town and get some fuel. They actually did go to town. I stayed in the back and sat on one of the chairs. I found some ointment and put it on my knee. It was pretty torn up. I had a picture of it in the last video. It's probably hard to really grasp what's going on. So basically all that happened is it peeled some skin off, which made it bleed everywhere. But little ointment on it, keep it flexible. I didn't want to put a bandage on it because every time I do stuff like that, they slide off, and the more tape and whatever I use, the more awkward and painful it ends up being. So I just ointmented it, and it was probably okay. I ended up riding all the way home sitting down. So that's all the adventures from Friday and Saturday. Now Sunday, Sunday we had a dinner invitation. That fell through. And being that Sunday night was so late, we didn't do anything Sunday morning. Until Sunday evening we had an invitation out. So we went out Sunday evening to see my in-laws that I don't get to see very often. Not nearly enough. So after that, coming home, the old driveway is still kind of a mess. Usually I try to drive where the driveway actually is, and if the tracks are not there, I try and make the tracks on the gravel, because I want people to drive on the gravel, not in the yard. I got stuck a little bit down below in the driveway. Had to back up and give it a little run. So we got up here, and then I took a wide swing. You can see it over the hood of the 4Runner. I took a wide swing over there. And it's hard packed snow from the snowmobiles, but it's actually a lot deeper than I thought. So I ended up buried right up to the center of the axle, the floorboards or running boards, right on the snow. But I ended up getting it in 4-low. Well, that's not a problem. 4-low is a manual shift. 4-wheel drive is switched electronically, and the center differential lock switched electronically. Center diff didn't want to work right away, but after giving her a couple hard hits in the snow, it decided to go in when I shifted to 4-low for 4-wheel drive locked. And I couldn't get anywhere, so I got out, and there's the shovel handle. I got out and took the shovel and shoveled away the front. Shoveled in front of all 4 wheels. So that allowed us to get ahead just a tiny little bit. So I was going forward and back. And I noticed that my speedometer wasn't even working anymore. Well, sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. It started getting a lot of grinding noises up front, which I wasn't too worried. I figured, it's probably a CV shaft. This is an 01. It probably got stock CVs, and they're probably dried right up. So it, anyway, late night decision making doesn't usually turn out to be the best. That's how we got the big dent in the door. I thought about just stopping and leaving it. We could just walk to the house. It's in our own driveway, and then mess with it in the morning. But the other part of me had something to prove, so I took her through the ringer, man, all the way, banging the rev limiter, going back and forth, side to side, doing everything I knew how to do except let air out of the tires. So I ended up getting out, but not with my four-wheel drive. So something mattered with the four-wheel drive. When I parked it up here, I got under the nose, and on the right side of the diff, I went forward and back just a little bit to get to my parking spot I like, pointed out so we can get out. And there's a trail of reddish looking oil. It looks like it's the same color as nasty burnout ATF. So I don't know why it would be ATF, because this has got skid plates. I shouldn't really care about, shouldn't have any problem with ripping off tranny lines or anything, so, or power steering cooler or anything like that. So either we split the differential, or I would say it sounds like ring and pinion. But then again, at one point the four-wheel drive seemed to start working again because the mile an hour showed up again. So I'm guessing it's either a broken CV shaft or it's a broken ring and pinion. So I have a load of firewood to deliver today, so I guess that's not going to happen, because I'm not going to drive around on the highway with the four-wheel drive messed up. That truck's off the road now, and it's going in the garage for repair. The Tacoma sits in there. It's got a flat tire, needs undercoating, and then needs some work in to fix the idling. So what happened? I think it's something to do with the IAC valve, because it idles at 1500 RPM, and it seems like the computer is changing the timing back and forth, trying to get the engine to settle down and idle. Because it goes up, down, and you can hear the tone of its running change, like it's moving timing way up, way down, way up, way down. Because I guess the way they're set up on the Toyotas, when the throttle flapper is closed, they have the idle air control valve to either add more air or take more air away. And then the only other, and that's limited in its scope. It can only do so much to change the airflow values through the throttle body. And then the rest is done through timing. It'll take timing out until it idles down. So if you misadjust your throttle cable, it'll just take timing out till it idles back down. So what it seems like it's doing, it's trying to make the engine idle down, or then it's lost signal somewhere, and the computer just trying to mess with it and get it to, it's just hunting for a RPM, or hunting for a timing value or whatever. So there's a number of things that could be wrong with it. There's even potential that the truck is done, it's off the road, and we'll never use it, never get it inspected again. I might be ended up chasing wiring, or maybe it's the ECM. That ECM is 22 years old. I mean, I've never had a phone last 22 years. So if that ECM is dead, it's lived a full life. So I don't know. But what I do know, what I can do today, I can change that tire, or get the tire off, put bead sealer on it, get it full, hold air again. we need to get it on blocks and get it undercoated. So I think our work today is just going to be focusing on getting the Tacoma oiled and tires full of air. We can bring it back in and work on the electronic or the idling issue another day. The manifold is absolutely full of gunk and it needs to be cleaned. So I thought I'd start with cleaning the throttle body, cleaning the whole intake manifold. I got all the gaskets and stuff for it, I think. So I think that'll be our point of attack once we get to that job. So today I think we're gonna get to work on that. The 4Runner is just gonna sit here. Later, once we get to move it, we'll see how much fluid it's lost, and then we'll see what we got to do to fix that. So right now we got no vehicles that we can use. Well, the Toyota in the shop, we could put air in the tire and drive it up the road, and then this got a broken diff. Technically, if I unshift everything, it should be fine. I don't think the insides of the diff actually even turn once it's all unshifted out of four-wheel drive, because it's a disconnect diff. The whole reason to use the electric shifter thingy is to disconnect your axle shaft so they're not turning the diff constantly. According to Power Stroke guys with the disconnect hubs, they can get 2 miles per gallon maybe. So Chevy did it with their stupid trucks too, so I guess it was the in thing of the early 2000s to have disconnect four-wheel drive. It's not a happy day when you drive old junk. If you were here a couple videos ago, I was using the radiator to warm up the front pumpkins so I could shift the solenoid and go pull my dumb snowmobile. You know we're rough on these trucks. That's why we have Toyota trucks, because they take the beating. Well, maybe this one didn't take the beating, but I'm sure the diff was full of oil, and I checked everything. Supposedly it had all new fluids, so I didn't refill the front diff because it was clean. It was supposedly fresh, but there's that, guys. I guess now we know what we need to do. This is a long intro. I guess it's going to be uploaded as one separate video. If you know, I know of a 2001 runner in a junkyard that I can probably get the diff out. I'm sure it's buried in snow, and the guys are very, very busy. They'll have to move it up inside their building where there's a big frame thing made out of pipe. They just set a vehicle on top and kind of work on it. Hopefully it could work. It'd be great if I could do that. If I had to get another diff. The only thing is, what gear ratio is it? So we are going to take it one thing at a time, though. Hopefully it's just an old CV shaft, and that won't take long to fix. But guys, that's it. Let's get right into it. And hey, this is one way for me to do Toyota stuff. That's what I like to do on this channel, Honda and Toyota, kind of try and focus on that. I've been looking for a Honda Trail 90, Trail 125. It's got to be the Trail 90 chassis. If I do what I like, if I find a nice one that's really nice, I'll probably do engine upgrades to it if I can. But for now, we got Toyotas to fix, boys. So let's get straight into it. Cheers. Not gonna be a fun day. Actually, the temperatures are nice. I think we're getting 30s, 40s for daytime temps, so that won't be too bad. Alright, I'm gonna go get some food in me and get my day started. Thanks for watching, guys. Come join the channel, subscribe, and share if you would. Thank you.